The last couple of years of news have been pretty bad, and I know many of you tune into the Damage Report expecting to be hit with stuff that is at the very least mildly depressing, but not today, or well, later on today, but not right now. We are going to be hitting you with some of the good news that has come in some of the recent elections, as well as related matters recently, including throwbacks to some stories that we talked about on this show and across this network. So, do you recall the Florida judge who denied a teen girl an abortion because her grades weren't good enough? He lost re-election. Isn't that nice? That's Jared Smith, an incumbent circuit judge for Hillsborough County, gained notoriety because he said, apparently you can only have freedom over your body if you get good enough grades. She was a 17-year-old seeking an abortion without parental consent back in January. He said she lacked intelligence or credibility and was thus not mature enough to get an abortion, although presumably mature enough to raise a human. Anyway, he won't be a judge anymore. So that's good news. Also, by the way, in Florida, Representative James Bush lost his re-election bid. He was the only Democrat in the state legislature who voted for a 15-week abortion ban and supported the Don't Say Gay bill. So multiple good election results there. What do you think, Jordan?
Yeah, I think it's great. On the Democrat who lost, I think it shows how ineffective appealing to conservatives is if you're running as a Democrat. Because if they have a choice between you, somebody who's taking right-wing stances to try to appeal to people across the aisle or in the middle, they're just gonna go with the real thing. They're just gonna go with the real Republican. So it's not a viable long-term strategy. So I hope Democrats realize that nationwide. On the judge thing, I think that's great. I'd be curious to see who replaces him, but also, I'm still really worried in general about our rightward shift of the courts. And this week, The Lever had a really good story about an industrial magnate in Chicago giving 1.6 billion to Leonard Lea, who is the co-chair of the Federalist Society. He already had a ton of wealth and he had already worked to reshape the courts nationwide, including the Supreme Court. Now he's got a $1.6 billion war chest to keep doing that. So like, it's good, but it's also in the grand scheme of things, like what's really gonna change? I hope people understand just how massive that's going to be in a boost for the right and the moral imperative to get involved, to fight back. I as much as I want to say small dollar donations help and go a long way, like we're not gonna really be able to match that. So we're gonna have to work above, go above and beyond in every other aspect of our organizing, of our community engagement, of our political engagement to beat that.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you pointed out the $1.6 billion because that one donation is more than progressive organizations like in the media will be given ever. You can fast forward 200 years, all told, it will not add up to that. But $1.6 billion there. I don't know if some beanie wearing idiot wants to make a music video, they'll throw millions of dollars at him to do that. Like there's always money available on the other side. That is nice. But again, we are focusing briefly on the good news. We'll get to all sorts of bad news, including apocalyptic news coming up later on. Another good result. Scott Esk was a candidate for the Oklahoma House of Representatives who had said at multiple points across multiple years, including 2 journalists, that it was totally just and moral to stone gay people to death. He lost election. That was apparently slightly over the line, thankfully. So that's good news. We've got that, and this isn't technically an election, this is just somebody being fired, but I think a case could be made that it was warranted. Pete Arredondo has been fired by the school board community in Uvalde, and it was a unanimous vote and obviously an emotional situation. I'm gonna undercut the good news by just a little bit by saying getting rid of Pete Arredondo seems necessary. Obviously, does that solve the situation? Does it solve the problem? No, not at all. I mean, Pete Arredondo is a symptom of an absolutely broken, corrupt, sick machine. But if you hadn't had Pete Arredondo, the shooting still would have happened. The response might have been better. It might have been approaching competence. But so that's good. He got fired. He should be done in public life if there was any justice. So that's good news. Jordan, what do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how different the situation would have been though without him, because like you say, it's a symptom of a much larger disease. And it wasn't just one person who was hiding. It wasn't just one person who was harassing, assaulting, arresting parents in the parking lot who were just worried about their kids' safety in Uvalde. It's just they're all like that, and it shows how ineffective they are and how they really don't even serve the purpose they purportedly serve, but also just how overpowered assault weapons are. Like if you have hundreds of cops afraid to take on one kid with an AR-15, the problem is the gun. There is a problem with the police, but like if they're all scared of it, like maybe that shouldn't be able to be purchased by consumers.
Yeah, and I can only speak for myself. I am never gonna be satisfied with, no matter how fast a police response might be, it is always going to be a response. I don't want them to have to respond to someone having even 15 seconds of uninterrupted time using an assault weapon against innocent civilians. And that's the thing, you can replace Pete Arredondo, you can replace every cop in Uvalde. You can still go and buy one of these guns and you'll have at least a couple of minutes to kill as many kids as you want. And that is unacceptable, which is why from the very beginning with this story, as much as I am glad that people have focused on the incompetence of the cops, I always felt a little bit uncomfortable doing that because that took the attention off of the fundamental problem, which is that you can buy these guns in the first place. So we need to do both, okay? Other good news, there was a special election in a New York swing district. Democrat Pat Ryan actually won. And so that is good news. But more importantly, perhaps, people are now starting to analyze the pattern of the special elections that have happened since Biden. Or actually, this is just since the Dobbs decision back in June, the destruction of Roe v. Wade. If we bring up this tweet by Ryan Matsumoto, you can see that there has been a pretty large and in uniform direction shift in how Trump performed in these areas versus how these special elections have happened. And look, it could be that there are reasons other than the Dobbs decision that it could be moving this direction. But look, honestly, I think one would expect that in these sorts of special elections, I would have expected that the normal historic pattern of midterms would have applied, which is that you would expect that the party out of power would have an outsized benefit to this time. And so it's possible that something like that is happening in terms of enthusiasm, and yet it's moving in the direction of the Democrats. And so I think people are starting to wonder if this is like a marker of a really big shift in how the midterms might work, Jordan. I'm not sure if that's something that you've been thinking about, but things aren't looking quite as ominous as they were something like 3 or 4 months ago.
It's hard to ignore, John. You're like you say, historically, the party in power in midterms does relatively poorly. They usually lose a little bit. They might lose control of a chamber or Congress entirely. It's surprising. Democrats could defy history here if they continue what they've been doing over the past few weeks. We've seen a few really good things from the Democrats. I'm not saying perfect, so just everyone can chill out. But I think generally there are some things in the IRA that are good. Very deeply troubled about the climate, or the climate provisions not being able to be enacted in part because of its boost to oil and gas. But there are a few other things that are really good. The student loan debt cancellation, the way they've been hammering Republicans on abortion, and now today moving to make DACA a federal rule so it can't be challenged. That's a really good thing. It's a really good thing that helps undocumented people in this country. So if they continue down this path of literally doing things, which is, a little out of character for Democrats, but if they continue down this path, keep hammering Republicans for really just being the dog that caught the car on abortion. And also in the New York race, a really, really good ad that I saw from Ryan Grimm today was, basically 50% of his ad expenditures was just hammering big corporations and their price gouging on electricity.
Yeah,
that's something everybody can relate to. Hit people, you target the material conditions that people experience across the board, regardless of party, and you're going to see more support. Because what do the Republicans have to offer? Whining about culture war issues, complaining that you get $10,000 in relief in student loan debt, and insisting that you shouldn't be able to practice bodily autonomy. That's not a winning message.
Yeah, and then spending a week like choosing a hill to die on of trying to stop vets from getting like health insurance for the diseases that they've suffered. Yeah, they've had a couple of own goals over the past few months. And look, if we bring up this last graphic, you'll see how certain issues have changed in terms of their importance for people's vote, and you can see a 13-point jump in how important abortion is. I absolutely despise that this scale only goes to 20, not to 0. I hate when people do that. But anyway, the coronavirus outbreak is a little bit less important to people. Foreign policy dropping. I'm assuming that's maybe, with the Ukraine being less daily news, perhaps people are less focused on that. But gun policy, violent crime are up. And the economy, which that means literally everything. So saying the economy is a weird thing to say, is still the most important issue by a good chunk. So look, I largely agree with you. I think we've been asking for the Democrats to literally do anything. I think with those exact words for some time. They've started to do it. It hasn't always been what we've wanted. I was, somewhat critical, obviously, of the student debt cancellation plan yesterday. I'm going to be a little bit more positive with the new details, but yeah, it's people like it when you actually govern. When they send you to office and you do not only anything, but literally the things that you campaigned on. That is how this process is supposed to work. When you do the opposite of that, when you campaign on something and then just don't even try to accomplish it, people are understandably frustrated. And you can see both parts of that process in play. People were okay with Biden for the first few months or so. He did, a little bit of the stimulus aid. It seemed like he was taking Build Back Better seriously. Once they, like late last fall, they decided, well, I guess we're not gonna do this anymore. His numbers started to slip month after month after month because it appeared he had gone to sleep or at least given up. He'd surrendered on his agenda. And now that they're starting to do stuff, that's great. Now, a little bit of it in terms of like, people being fired up over the destruction of Roe v. Wade, this is a good side effect. I still find it to be an unacceptable side effect. And I still hate that the Democrats haven't done more to contradict a little bit of it being destroyed with the power that they have. But, I guess we'll take it if it moves the needle, I suppose. Any other thoughts, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, you see that reaction in people, and I'm not saying the internet is reflective of the body politic at large, but there are a lot of people who are deeply engaged who spend time on the internet in political circles and political parts of the internet. And you saw that was like, I know it's not, just the signal, but the Dark Brandon meme I saw being shared by people who would never otherwise support Biden or have been deeply critical of Biden. I think it shows that like people really want him to, like yesterday, telling the reporter, is that fair that corporations get tax cuts on the backs of the working class? That popped off so much. Another anecdote was last night, I guess AEW wrestling. They had like an applause line for student debt cancellation. Like, what is happening here? And it's just that they're doing things that a lot of people really want and like. And people relate to it rather than just these abstract, different, tinkering around the edges and different federal rules and in the bureaucracy. Like, do big things that people like, and you'll be a popular president. It's very simple.
Exactly. Yeah. I saw someone saying, and this would be very in fitting with the Dark Brandon meme. Like, he should cancel another 10K today. Like, can you imagine? Oh God, can you imagine what the right would do if he just did it? He was like, oh, you want to say something? I could do it tomorrow. It's a business day. I could do another 10K. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.